Police departments nationwide are working to bridge the gaps between officers and the communities they serve. African Americans make up 47% of the population in Washington, D.C. A recent survey found 83% of the people subjected to stop and frisk in the Capitol were black. The police and the city's mayor are addressing racial bias with help from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Jeff Pegues is outside the museum with the mission of this unique training. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. Law enforcement officials across the country now acknowledge the link between black history in America and the current divide between police and community. And that is why D.C. police now mandate this new training, which includes a tour of this museum, which compels officers to explore black history in such a way that it reduces tension on the streets between police and community.
What I want to do is introduce why Washington, D.C. is known as the Black Mecca of America.
Bernard Demchuk has led hundreds of police officers on tours through historically black neighborhoods in the center of D.C., known as Shaw and U Street.
Murals tell a story. We don't want to hide our history behind closed doors.
Demchuk says those neighborhoods have a history of oppression at the hands of a police force that was majority white.
The looters were mostly young Negro men and women.
Racial tensions caused riots in this neighborhood when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
The first brick went through the window of a store that would not hire African Americans.
Fires set by the rioters burned blocks of buildings to the ground. 50 years later, resentment still simmers.
It's a tension. Be conscious of it.
Over the last year, Metropolitan Police have seen a 36% rise in use of force incidents. In 2016, D.C. police were involved in the deadly shooting of Terrence Sterling, an unarmed black man.
What do we want? Justice!
Which led to protests.
What do we want? Now!
In another high-profile case, an officer was photographed wearing a shirt with racist imagery. Officers Regina Greer, Melvin Evans, and Sarah Snapko say police often feel the tension when they walk the beat.
I was called names, and it was very uncomfortable. It was different, and I couldn't understand why there was that conflict. And this is one of the reasons why this training is such a benefit.
Officer Snapko worked in the Shaw neighborhood.
Just knowing the history, the background, I hope that reverberates with the community, that they realize we want to know.
All three are trainers at the police academy and have taken the tour. Learning this type of information and then going out onto the beat, do you think, Officer Greer, that lowers the temperature level? It makes everyone feel a little bit more at ease?
I really believe that it does.
When you look at past history, you don't want to repeat the same mistakes again. When you look at mistakes in law enforcement, you say, no, we don't want to go there as a department.
The chief can't do his job effectively if the community doesn't trust him and his officers.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser joined Police Chief Peter Newsham to implement the new training.
Hopefully you will get out of this training what I got out of going through this museum, and it's an experience like no other experience.
Chief Newsham saw the National Museum of African American History and Culture as a learning opportunity.
We're not teaching our kids across the country about what happened to African Americans in this country, and I think a lot of us are missing something there.
Lessons he hopes they have learned now.
I think more importantly, it's for our police officers to understand how some folks in our community feel about how the police played a role in some of the injustices that we have in our society.
Officer Evans says the training will make a difference.
The only way you make a breach or build that bridge of getting along is allowing people to know that I know about you. I have something that I can talk to you about you. I understand what you went through. I understand your concerns. You learn from your community, and the community learns from you. And at the end of the day, they really know that you're here to aid in the system.
This program is unique in that it is mandatory for an entire police department. Other cities like Chicago and Philadelphia have started similar courses in order to bridge the divide between police and community. Norah.
What a good story, Jeff. Thank you. I can remember talking to the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, about cops in neighborhoods and developing this kind of relationship before it becomes a problem. Like before you get a ticket, you already have a relationship because cops have been in the schools. They're part of the community. They're your friends. They're community members before there's a negative interaction like a law enforcement action.
Yeah, I interviewed the new chief of patrol, the NYPD, and Tracy Kersey. She's the chief for training. They're taking this stuff very seriously as well.
You got to invest the time, though.
Indeed.
Yeah.